Hi, I'm Ellise. Well, I'll introduce myself later, but I should introduce Lucid. So, thank you for joining me for the next hour or so. Who knows how long I'll go on for. We can ask some questions at the end if we get through it all in time. So hopefully there's something interesting in here, and it's not me just rambling on about stuff that you guys are like, I know that. But yeah, I just wanted to start out quickly with an introduction to Lucid, the company that I'm working for. Hi, I'm Ellise. Well, I'll introduce myself later, but I should introduce Lucid. So, thank you for joining me for the next hour or so. Who knows how long I'll go on for. We can ask some questions at the end if we get through it all in time. So hopefully there's something interesting in here, and it's not me just rambling on about stuff that you guys are like, I know that. But yeah, I just wanted to start out quickly with an introduction to Lucid, the company that I'm working for. An overview of Lucid is Lucid was formed in 2011 and it's based in the Baltic Triangle in Liverpool. We work on developing our own IPs as well as working co-dev and with other large named companies and studios on a variety of platforms. We have over 230 employees. I think it's around 250 now. We've just been growing. We're a lot of companies. Well, the industry has been a bit iffy at the moment, but Lucid has been growing and it's amazing. And we have an experienced range of people and we can work in all different types of engines. We specialize in Unreal. I myself have worked in sort of Unreal and Unity and a bunch of personal codev engines, which is always fun to learn. Here's a few games that Lucid have worked on throughout the years. I'm sure there's some familiar ones here. The most recent in development game that we can mention, I hope, is The Last Sentinel. If you haven't seen anything about it, I would definitely check out the trailer for it. It's really exciting and it's such a cool thing to get to work on. But yeah, check that out. It seems so cool. Lucid is a people-focused studio who look out for their employees and have only grown in this crisis, like I've said previously. It's led by people who care and want to protect and help the company grow, as well as these key points. Something that may interest a lot of people is our internships. We have internship programs that run all the time. I won't go into detail about those because I probably wouldn't give you accurate responses, but I would talk to our Lucid socials. So you'll probably end up speaking to Shirley, who's our amazing community manager, and she's so sweet and easy to talk to. So any questions about internships or jobs or information about Lucid in general, go to these and you'll get the answers more so than what I can give you. Okay, so now I'll introduce myself. I'm Ellise. I've been working in the industry for just over 7 years now. I've got a variety of games that have been released from mobile to console, where I've worked some from start to finish, others sort of midway through production. As you can see, I have a bit of a interesting path to being a game designer. I've been in a few different areas, and let me explain what I mean by that. So, I started studying computer animation in university. Was computer animation my passion? Not really. I loved creating things and I loved putting things together. I had all these thoughts and ideas in my head and I wanted a way to communicate them. And I tried my hand in a range of visual storytelling and putting things together, and animation seemed like the one that I could communicate the best with. But while I was there, I still didn't really connect with it. I tried a bunch of things. I did modeling and rigging, animating, but nothing really motivated me. My passion was sort of helping others bring their ideas out and putting things together for them and making things make sense for them. So by the time that I finished university, I thought, I feel like a bit of a failure. I don't feel like I've connected with the thing I got a degree in. So I did a bunch of part-time jobs, thinking, oh, I can't get a job in the industry. I can't get a job as a computer animator. I don't feel like I have that. So I ended up doing part-time jobs, and in my spare time, I then played around with all different types of media and ways to communicate, and I really started to enjoy putting loads of things together. So I was animating again, but I was also like designing things and making stories and making comics and making mini little games and making all this sort of stuff. And I was like, God, I love every aspect of this. It's not the computer animation was just a part of it for me. So then I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. So I applied for an internship at a company in London, which was Minilab at the time. I think it then turned into Bigger Maku. And I got that internship where I started doing animation, but it grew to just being a general dev there, and I got to learn so much. We mainly did mobile games, and we were really small, but I got to learn so much from the people around me. The communication was just constant, and it really helped me grow and made me feel like, God, I love every aspect of game dev. I love being a part of every little thing. I don't want to just stop at one thing. I like to see things form in loads of different ways. Um, so after that, I looked at a few jobs. I sort of stayed in Minilab for a few years, like 4 years, I think. And yeah, I wanted to sort of grow and grow my knowledge and go out. So uh, I took a bit of a step and applied for Lucid, where again I was going as an animator because I thought I don't know what my job is. I don't understand what it is I'm doing. I was being a game dev, but you can't really find jobs online that's just say game dev. So I felt like a bit of a failure again. So I was like, okay, I'll go back to computer animation and I'll learn it and I'll learn to love it and that'll be my place. And I went to Lucid and again I just wasn't connecting with it in the way I wanted, and I found myself doing more game design things and more planning of things. And even though my team was amazing and I loved working with the animation team, I ended up speaking with my the animation director, and I was just like, I'm not connecting with this. I'm looking at all these game designers and the things that I'm doing. I just feel like I suit that much more. And he was like, yeah, 100%. I support you in that. I can see that that's where your passion is, and I can see that that's what you're sort of good at. So yeah, I moved to animation for design. He really helped me with that, and it was really good. Um, that I had that support there. And then I got into game design. I went from junior to intermediate within Lucid, and it's been the place where I finally felt like I belong. And I was like, yeah, I'm a game designer. Everything I'm doing, everything I was doing was game design, and I didn't realize that until I could put myself together with that. And it's been amazing ever since. And I stopped feeling like a failure, and I felt like I found my place, and it's been a great journey. So starting off, I would just wanted to give a little message from me to you from my hardships of trying to figure out where I belong in the games industry. So it's okay to not know where you fit in straight away. Of course, I definitely didn't know I was going around everywhere. It can take time. It can take the experience of getting to be around different things. Sometimes in university, it's sort of like you have a focus of one thing, and they're like, you got to be really good at this thing, and you don't realize that when you're within a company, there's all these other little jobs and little things that you didn't realize were possible. And that's how I ended up finding out where I belong. um I definitely pushed finding my place sooner by the panic and thinking this is where I have to be, this is what I had to do, because I got the degree in it, and I ended up wasting time panicking about that more so than me just taking the time to think about what I really like. Learn from others around you. This is the biggest thing I could tell you. I learned so much from the people at Bigu and the people at Lucid, and I just it's it's been amazing. Ask them questions. I ask them questions all the time. Even if I sort of think I know the answer, I'll still ask the dumb questions because it adds that validation and it gets you sort of past the whole feeling like you can't say things and accept failure and learn from it. From all those years, I thought I was failing. I still didn't really give up, and now I'm in a much better place. I can look back at the things that I learned and realize, God, they weren't failures. They've really helped me get to where I am, even though at the time I felt like I was failing. Those really made me grow and find who I am today. Work with your passions. You know deep down what you connect with. You know what you're not really um, feeling. You know what you get passionate about and what you put so much energy in. So really try and flow into that. And don't let your path be dictated by others. So some people may question your knowledge or where you fit in, but you know yourself best and you know what you can work towards. So definitely follow your dreams. And yeah, you got this. You got this. It's all good. So I've just been rambling about a load of things, so let me actually go on about what I said I was going to go on about, which is taking an idea into a game design. So it's making an idea make sense, which is what I do all the time. It's cool. So expectation versus reality of working as a game designer within a studio. So I dictate how a game will work. I'm part of a team of people who will work out how a game will work. I supply the ideas. Anyone, including myself, can supply the ideas. I tell other crafts what they need to do to make a game. Other crafts will use their knowledge to help me structure how to make features of a game. The final result is my vision. Parts of the game can be how I envisioned, but ultimately I'm working to create the vision intended by the game director. Teamwork. You may be like, duh, I know how to work with a team, obviously, but you'd be surprised how much I can take over when you're in the flow and think, I've planned this out perfectly, this is the best solution. And suddenly you got that whole designer knows best syndrome, and your team will start losing trust and faith that they can talk to you about things. And that's not the type of designer you should be. You should be a team player. So finding the balance. There's finding a balance in design and hitting key points to get a feature from intention to shippable. So the steps that I've found that help me are these ones: confirm intention, consult other crafts, solidify the core, make it functional, test, create an accessible guide, promote, provide support, analyze feedback, acknowledge. A lot of people like to jump and skip a few steps, but I want to go through and break down why I think it's important that you hit these beats and create a solid design. So how do I handle gamifying other people's ideas? Because most of the time, if you're working at a company, you will be gamifying other people's ideas. So ideas can come from anywhere, and they can come in quite passionate and quite scrambled. And you'll end up getting some things like, "Hey, Elise, we want to make a massive game set in the future with old school dragons, and it's gritty but also funny. And I want big tools, but want it to be grounded and realistic. Oh yeah, and I also want it to be a western. Can you design that?" And it's like, okay, yeah, I guess I have to because this is what you're telling me to do. So yeah, let me try and work this out. So what you need to think about is gamifying the idea. In that case, you need to think about the story, the pillars, the core, the loop, the style influence, what's the aesthetic of the game, what's the gameplay, what's all the systems. This is a lot of things. It's a lot of things to think about. And you end up equally being as scrambled as the person who came with you with the scrambled ideas, but you're scrambling it in a different way. That is that's where you end up getting all this confusing design, and the intention of the vision never ends up getting to where you want it to be, and you end up wasting a lot of time with people just scrambling about in their brains. So let's start simple. First things first, let's get all the key questions out to the vision holder. I like to use this game jam process. It's how I've liked to structure little game jams. I just click on this here. Um, so if the answers aren't clear from the vision holder, I can tell that normally by thinking about that vision and being like, can I answer each one of these questions? And if I can't, then I should go back to the vision holder and make sure I can get an answer to these questions. These are like the core loops, the core details, and if those aren't there from the beginning, it's going to be hard for you to be able to gamify something because they're not giving you the full information. Here. Work with production, work with your team. You're not the only one who needs to make sense of this information, and production are there to help you figure out and structure things and find focus features and timelines, and you should really lean into that. Another big one for me is getting all your thoughts out there physically somewhere, getting it all out of your brain. This can help you start piecing things together and start fixing and moving cogs once it's just there and physically there is the biggest thing. Physically throw it out there. And make sure what you've taken from this is what the vision holder agrees with. Make clear arguments and suggestions, clarify how their core intention can be brought forward. You just need to make sure you're all aligned. So now we got to communicate it to the other crafts. You need the knowledge of others. You're not a one-man powerhouse. You'll create feature teams and acknowledge an owner in all the relevant areas to get widespread knowledge. You want to clearly outline the intention of the goal you confirmed with the vision holder, just like you had, just like you two got aligned. You need to align the team with the vision you've got. So make sure everyone is all clear on that. Ask for the other craft's opinions and concerns. Ask how they tackle the request from their perspective, what information they need. And that goes two ways. Request investigation into areas where solutions aren't clear within the craft areas. Solidify the core. So, starting at a core. This may be just a really simple way for me to explain this, but so everyone knows that this is a house. In its most simplest form, it has the key features and securely signifies this is a house. It's a secure core. So that's simple, stable, recognizable, buildable. From that, you can add it and gradually make it more extravagant because you know it's got these core things. It's still here. The core is still there. You've built on it. And then from that, you can then make it more extravagant and then you can start changing it completely. But the core is still there. It's still working. You're building on something that's stable. So, how do you get the equivalent of a secure house design in game design? So, have a space with all the current information you know on the area you're focused on, including the statements you got from the other crafts, vision holder, and your own reference thoughts. Figure out what the baseline of what you want is and how buildable that can be. Get user stories, don't plan for what's not intended in the early stages. Categorize, group key information together. A safe, secure foundation can be dressed up and built on and improved in a multitude of ways. Design something that encourages excitement and creativity. Secure also doesn't mean rigid. It means it's stable enough to switch out elements but keep a strong foundation. Um, so, okay, you've really broken down this house. I've given you, you've got to go make this house and you've broken it down so much. There's a lot of elements here that are set in stone in an early stage. I might want to change a door and then realizing that if I change that door, it's then going to change the structure of other parts of the house because it's so integral to the rest of the room. That door's now in multiple places, so I'd have to change that in multiple places. And let alone if someone else has also now got this house design and I've just had to change things about it, then they have to go change their work, and then it's just overcomplicated. Don't overcomplicate it at the early stages. Um, if you build a fragile system that requires multiple changes in an array of areas to function, then it's going to cause a lot of problems in the future, and it's going to cause other crafts work to be affected, and it's not going to be buildable, and it'll be chunks of wasted time that maybe when you see it when it first goes in, you're like, yeah, this is amazing. This is like, look how cool this is. But over time, that gets embedded into the game, and and then it causes a load of problems because you've made something so rigid, and it's just annoying. So how do I tackle requests like that? I make it make sense in a way that's comfortable to me. I'm quite a visual person, so I like to get my ideas out in visual ways. So I do scribbles, I make little prototypes, I do reference images and AMV videos and mood videos, presentations, documents, spreadsheets, and my favorite Miro, which I know not everyone can have Miro. I think I'm lucky that my company has it. But just a place. I think there's a whiteboardy app somewhere online that you can just throw a load of things out and you can move things around easily and start thinking, I maybe thought this was here, but actually I just want to drag it across to here because it makes more sense here. And that's how I start to figure out where the core is after getting out everything that I think is overcomplicated. So now we've got a core, we can make it functional and get it working. So you'll want to so how you as a designer support making the functional feature varies depending on your team size and time frame and skill set and company in general. But personally, I like to get involved. I like to learn from others and jump in and find out where I can help and where I can um, make ways to create things that will help other people get their stuff working quickly. It's all about helping, but also not overstepping. You don't want to be doing other people's work thinking, oh, I know how to do this, I can do this. I can do this simple. You'll end up either not doing it correctly, stepping on people, or just getting on the nerves of people who are specialized in that area and they could just do it. I know you get excited, but you know, calm down. um, Despite if you're in engine helping physically to create the feature or providing out of engine support, you'll need to check the status of the feature and make sure that it's functioning as intended and no sneaky feature creeps, and it's achieving its goal alongside the producers. So it's functional, yay! But you can't just leave it there. You gotta let it out to the world to be tested. It's easy for people to create a feature in isolation and see it functioning, and you're like, yeah, that's amazing. Add it to the main level, and then you chuck it all in, and then suddenly in game it's all broken now that it's mixed with everything else, and it's uh-oh. So it's important to test in context and have a clear example of where it would be in game and make sure it can be set up and is functional without conflict. And normally I like to sort of make sure I do that myself. I'll do like if I got a request from someone that's like, I need this to do this, I'll make sure that I set up the first contextual example of that in engine to be like, here it is exactly, you can copy from this, this is working. Yeah, so testing is also a good phase to iterate, which I think people sometimes think that they've done something and then they can just, they're like, I'm done, that's fine. With any bugs that come from that, I'll deal with that when someone tells me that I need to deal with that bug. But it's a good time. You need to review design. It may be functioning how you intended, but maybe now that it's physically there, you can play around with it. You'll notice things that are missing and aren't quite feeling right, and that's completely normal. The great thing for you to be able to It's a great thing for you to be able to notice this stuff at this stage and be able to improve that and point that out here and yeah, get it all working good. You can't always have the best solution straight away. On paper, you have to have it in front of you and to test it as a user and not a creator, which is hard when you've spent so much time thinking about it and you think you know it all. Um, Sometimes you just need to. Well, yeah, it's hard. It's easy. It's easy when other people tell you, um, from a fresh perspective, what things that they're finding out, and you could be like, oh yeah, I didn't see it like that. It's something that I notice gets forgotten easily when deadlines and pressures come into a feature. It's really important to not forget this step, um, to make those improvements at the core stage as the game progresses. This will keep, but as the game progresses, this will end up being pushed back, and then it'll end up causing later problems, and it's just like that. What I was saying previously, where if you don't have that stable, um, core stable starting stage, you're going to cause problems in the future, and this is all a part of making that core stable. So, speaking about forgotten things, documentation isn't just when creating the feature; it's also needed for when the feature is complete, so others know how to use it and share knowledge of how it's set up in the feature if it needs to be built on. A lot of the times, I've been in some companies where people have made an amazing feature, and it's so complex and so amazing. But then they leave, and the knowledge just left with them. There was no documentation anywhere. People needed to add on to that or to start using it or to figure out how to do it, and then you waste time having to go back and break it all down because there wasn't documentation there. Or guides for when people are like, how do I even use your feature? And then they keep coming to you and you keep having to explain the same things over and over again when you should have provided a clear guide for them so that they can get on with things and you can get on with some new things. Um, a big thing to mention is definitely knowing your audience when it comes to creating documentation. You'll get programmers and artists and people from all different crafts coming to look at this, and knowing how they take in information is important, and you should make sure your documents account for people of all different information gathering, information taking, I don't know, whatever that word is. You get it. um, so promote and support. What? You just made a cool feature. I didn't even realize that. Um, it's not all about showboating and saying like, look how cool this feature I made is, although you should definitely do that. um, it's also about presenting your feature and making sure that others can see that it's there. It may help others out in a phase that they're in and they didn't realize that you've just solved them a whole bunch of investigation themselves because you've created something that helps them with their feature. And as a designer, you should be able to present it with a brief description, a working example, or related documents, and include which area, who owns what areas, and where they can go to for support. And you should hopefully be the one that they come to when it comes to this feature, and you have control of that and ownership of that, and you can provide them with the proper answers. And you keep track of all that stuff by feedback and improvements. How you take and analyze feedback is super important. All feedback is useful. What is said isn't always what they mean. Don't always take feedback and suggestions as they are and provide quick, people-pleasing solutions. I know it's hard when people are there and questioning things that you've done, and they may not even mean it in the way that it's coming across, but you need to take that and be like, okay, so what do they really mean by what they're saying? What is actually missing that makes sense, that will help improve this feature? Take time to digest. Again, don't be super reactive. I know sometimes it's hard, but sometimes people just need to say this, and you can take that down and jot it down and take the time to think about it and again figure out what they actually mean. It's definitely not a battle. It's not a criticism of your skills. Everyone is here trying to make a game. You're all trying to make the best version of this game, and no one here is coming at you, even though it feels like it sometimes. It's also just, like I said before, a really fresh perspective that you probably didn't realize because you were so caught up in the mists of it. Acknowledge. Yay, you did it. That's amazing. So celebrate yourself for getting little wins. People get so involved with moving on to the next feature and the next thing that they have to do, and other people are preoccupied with their own section, so you're not going to get people all around you being like, yeah, whoa, that's amazing, like, I love that. But you should be proud of yourself, even if there was failures or mistakes along the way. You're growing and creating games, and that's really cool. This also wasn't a one-man team. You should make sure that you celebrate your team too, and make sure that they get noticed and they get the recognition they deserve, because normally as a designer you get to present the sort of final feature and put it all out there, and people will come to you and be like, oh, that's cool. And you had all these other people involved in it, and they just don't get that recognition, and they should, because it wouldn't have been made if it weren't for them. So let's go back and summarize all of these different points that we hit. So you want to clearly define what the vision and the goals are for the vision holder. Communication with the other crafts is key. Don't let people out of the loop. Create a clean and solid buildable system from the core. Get it in engine and get it working. Test, improve, and learn. Make your designs easily accessible. Get it out to the people. You own this. Help support its growth. Listen and analyze. You and your team are amazing, and you're successfully game deving. So resources. These are a bunch of resources that I love, especially Richard's book, which if you want to become a game designer, I definitely recommend getting that. It's been really insightful, and he breaks down the different types of game designers, and you can figure out where you fit in and what type of thought process you use. The other things I guess people would probably know about is sort of GDC talks. There's a lot of those. Game Maker's Toolkit, obviously. We got this, and Developers by Design. Yeah, these are all great video tutorials and everything like that. There's probably so many more, but at this time I couldn't think of them, so this is it. I also wanted to give a shout out to one of our own. Holly Newsham had made a book, an animation book, which is the Animator's Pocket Guide, which I should have put in here, but definitely check that out. It's something that is really helpful for people who want to grow and go into animation. And yeah, thank you. I hope I didn't rush through all that, which I probably did. I talk without breaks, so I'm crazy. Um, yeah, so thank you for listening to me ramble about things. I hope that it wasn't just all super obvious stuff and maybe something hit somewhere that was like, okay, yeah, I think I understand things a little easier. If not, I hope that people got to support some support or some validation if they're feeling like they're not hitting the right points in their life or they're getting failures or they don't know where they belong. Yeah, I've been through all that.